Okay, for real. Now we get to start. Okay, so our goal for this is to write a for in loop to iterate over an object because many people have expressed that they would like to do that. And then we're also going to go over some different kinds of loops. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to describe those and use them. So obviously there are many different kinds. For in. Let's go ahead and Google the rest. So you guys, most of you already have your computers open. Take a second, Google a couple, pick one that you want to shout out in a second, and I'll let you do that. I'll tell you when you can shout them out. And go.
For each.
Okay, for each. What was that?
Do
while. Any others?
For
For of. For in. Yeah, it's up there. You know. While. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Okay, cool. So let's start with for just to get our brains back in the game. You guys probably have used this one. So take about 30 seconds, think about how you've used it, think about what it does, and then I'm going to call on some people to describe it for me. If you need to look at your code from last week to remind yourself, or this weekend if you were working on accumulator patterns, then you can. 30 seconds. Okay, Jacob, you look like you've got an answer. You want to go for it?
Sure.
Okay.
Basically, this is going to be for your starting condition, the conditions for which the loop is valid, how you want to increment it.
Yep.
And then brackets and some sort of
Yes. Definitely. And in the accumulator pattern, we use that one, right? We use the for loop. Cool. So, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so the most important thing to use for is when I know the length of the.
Yes, definitely. I love that. Do we have somebody from this side of the room that wants to give us their definition as well? No. They all say no. Jason, you want to go for it?
Just basically takes our together condition, it's going to iterate through it until that condition is met.
Basically, yeah. The end of the array usually, right?
What's the term of that middle thing?
The code? The code block?
The blank less than blank. Like instead of reaching a condition phrase, they're like, it's this.
Yeah, I think of it more, in my brain at least, as where I want I to start, where I want I to end, how I want it to increment, and that's how I think of it. I don't know if there's a I don't know if there's a word for it.
I'm not sure if there's a word for it, but kind of the way I understand it, at least, is like the conditional limit.
Yeah. We could make up a word if you don't find one on Google. Yeah, think about this. Cool. To real quick review before we jump into for in, I would like everybody in some fashion, you may write it on the whiteboard, your table, you may write it on your computer. Write a function that uses a for loop. It can do anything you want it to do. Just show me that you know how it's used and what it does. 2 minutes on the clock, please. Already ready. This is not a test. You can use Google. Thirty more seconds. Some of you got creative and your code is very complicated, but that's okay. I would like for you to turn to your neighbor or closest person, walk them through your code. They're gonna look for any mistakes. They're going to ask you questions and then switch, please. Go for it. I love it, that's funny. Requirement in the quickest way. What's that? I gotcha. Yeah, me too.
JavaScript even there. And I didn't even completely unintended. I don't want to say it was unintended, but
All right, wrap it up, please. All right, let's bring it back in. Hopefully you guys all mastered that because you did so much work on it over the weekend and last week. Let's get into for in. Some of you have probably already started working on this. I like very simple human ways to describe things. So when I look at MDM and I read through their description of what something does, I'm like, that is not for a human. Like, I don't understand what that's saying. Too many vocab words that I am not entirely familiar with. So up here, I have put my version. Loops through properties of an object. Boom. Okay? So am I going to use this on a string? No. I'm going to use it on an object. Okay? Here are a couple of examples, basic examples of how we can use it. The setup is similar to our regular for loop, for, and then parentheses. And in our parentheses, we're saying go through the key in an object. We can name key whatever we want to, and we can name key object whatever the object is that we're going to be iterating through. So this one on the top is going to log the literal key, not the value of the object while it's iterating through. This second one is going object key, it's going to give us the value, right? Because we're using bracket notation right there. So let's see how this works. Over here, I have a person that I have created. Name, Bilious, age 743, and passion is uncomfortable podcasts. So I would like to see, this is big enough, let's see. Using our for in, that basic one we just saw on this screen, this top one, or the bottom one, doesn't really matter. I just want to see what it outputs so that I can kind of start to wrap my brain around it. Real quick, take about 15 seconds, think to yourself, what is this going to output, this code right here? 10, 11, and 12, those lines. Okay. Sorry. Okay, let's check it out and see if your thoughts were correct. Ooh, if I can get to it. Here we are. Woo! Some people celebrate it. All right, it gave us the actual keys, not the value. And it gave it for each property in the object, which is pretty sweet, pretty fast way to iterate through the object. Then we can go ahead and our object is named person, and we want the key in that. So take 5 seconds this time. What is this code going to output? Should be pretty quick answer. Yay, we got the values this time. So the for in loop is just a fancy iterator, and it's for objects. So it's pretty cool. If we want to get a little bit more complicated, we totally can. Let me comment this out. Yes, Sean.
Can you go back and kind of explain that? I'm just a little bit confused. So like before you didn't have person in there, you just had key, and that way it just did the...
Yeah, good question.
And so now I'm trying to understand why when you now, let's see, go ahead and put
the object in there.
Variable there before key, then it does the values.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's really cool. Up here in like basically where we're saying what we want it to iterate through, we're giving we're naming the variable key as like just our key. We could name it anything really. Left side. And it's just going to be looking for, I think anyways, the it's just looking for the keys, and this is just how the for in loop works. And we're specifying the object that it's finding, that it's going to be looking through here. So if I just wrote object, it wouldn't have anything to look through because I don't have an object in my code named that. So I'm specifying where, like, what object I want it to search or iterate through right there. And so when I use that for in loop, it's saying, okay, every left side or key, which is how we had it earlier, in person is what I want. Every key in person. And then it console logs that because that's the code I want. We could do other things inside of that for in loop too, just like a for loop. Does that kind of make a little bit of sense? I'm using the same words, unfortunately. Maybe we'll see. It might help when we go into the a different function. Let's try that. And if still not, ask me again in a second. So for this code, we are using another for in loop right here. I've got var key in object. The reason why I don't have an actual object name in there is because I'm going to be using the object I get from this parameter up here in the function. So I won't actually give it an object until I call this function getKey. Guessing by the name, getKey is going to provide us the key from in a key value set of the object that we supply. So I'm giving it a value and I'm going to search the object based on that value. So I want the function to give me the key that matches the value that I pass into it. So if down here I've got my block of code, this is where we just had our console log key earlier. But I've got this conditional that says if the object value, the object key, I'm using bracket notation here to access the value, equals the parameter value or the argument value, right, from my function, then log the key. So we won't get all of the keys. We'll only get the one that matches the value, kind of. So let's say I run getKey on this object up here that we had called person. And I want to find the key that matches 743. Please shout out what you think we would get. Age. We would get age. Let's try it, make sure it works. Age. On the flip side, yeah.
For the keys of that object,
Yes.
do they have to be in quotes?
I don't think so, no. I just do it out of habit. No. So we can also pass in an object, like not a variable that's referencing an object. So here I've got dog is Panzer, cat is Markle, and human is Cass. And I want to find the key that matches Markle. So if I run this again, what key should I get? Yes, cat. Definitely. And we get cat. So once again, it's just searching through the object that it's given in the function, which in this case is this guy. It's going to iterate through the keys, and I'm giving it this condition that the value of the object the value of the key that it's iterating over needs to match the value that I passed into the function. Kind of weird. This is all being recorded too, so if you missed anything, you can definitely come back to it. Okay, so earlier I gave a definition for in loops. I would love for you to take the next minute and a half to Google and formulate your own definition of a for in loop. Go for it. Minute and a half. Go to multiple sites because one of them might have verbiage that you like better. 30 more seconds. Okay, Ross, do you have a definition?
I just said it's a loop that basically iterates through all properties of.
Yep, that's what I would say. Anybody else got another version of it? Let's see. Michael shakes his head. Nope. Rob, you got another one? Right, with the same. Okay.
It just goes through all keys in
Yeah, keys in an object. Nice. We're not going to try it out right now. I'm going to give you time to do that at the end, obviously, because you've got exercises you can work on. Real quick, before we cut out for my slides and go to the for of, as requested at the beginning, I want to talk about object.keys because some people have asked about that. Here is my hilarious definition. It's kind of like a run-on sentence almost. It returns an array of the keys of the object in the order they would be returned if you were to iterate over them. Whew! Too many words in one sentence, in my opinion. I'm going to have you look up this one as well. But basically, I would like to show you before you do that. I've got my person object up here, bilious, and where is my thing? Oh, right here. Down here, I would like to use object.keys, and based on what I just read, that big long sentence, I'm thinking that when I object.keys and pass in the person object, I should get an array of the keys in the same order that I would have gotten if I would have iterated over it in another way. Let's see. Name, age, and passion. Cool. And that's what I expected. If I pass in the object of my pets, I'm expecting to get dog, cat, human. All it's doing is pulling those keys from the key value pairs, popping them in an array. Dog, cat, human. Boom. But it's much faster to write this than writing the other. So take a minute, find out a better definition of this one for me. Object.keys. Yes.
This is something important about that.
Yes.
That it does not work in the tests on Learn because they're running over version of JavaScript.
Perfect, thank you. What Rob said was, this doesn't work yet in Learn. So this is only for on your computer when you're running stuff. Thank you for saying that. It's important to know. Find a better definition than what I've got, because this is too long of a sentence. It might be something similar, though. Fahad, do you have an idea?
Well, the iteration of the objects.
Well, yeah, like a better definition for object.keys. Or maybe you were working on something else. Okay, I won't make you. I won't put you on the spot. Jason, do you have one?
I would just say it kind of takes the keys of that object and turns it into an array.
Right. Yes. And Steven?
Returns an array of keys of the object in the order they were defined.
Yes. In the order that they would be in iteration, not necessarily defined. But yeah, okay, cool. We're going to take a break from my slides real quick because many people said, what about for of? And I didn't add that into the slides, so let's quickly Google it. You can Google it with me if you want. I am literally going to type JavaScript for of, and then in the next one, I'm going to Google for of versus for in JavaScript.
Also, another really useful one is for each.
Ooh, here we've got one of all three. Thank you, Rob. For each is definitely super useful. Cool. This human says, talks about for each first, says is a method that is only available on array objects. So you can iterate through elements of an array. It takes a callback function and invokes the callback for every array element. So the callback can access both index and value of the array elements. You can Google callbacks right now if you're like, what? We haven't really talked about that much. We've only talked about it a little bit. So for each is a good way to loop through arrays, basically. For in we just talked about. For in is looping through properties of an object. And then it looks like for of is a new way for iterating through collections. If it's new, I'm assuming it might also not be on learn at this point. Just a guess. So for of works on a collection. Looks like it needs this property, which we have not talked about. Did anybody come up with any other good Google results? Nope. Okay.
I think static callback.
Yes.
Is that when a function is an argument or parameter?
Yes. Nice. Cool. Let's jump back to this. Cool. So in a little bit, you're going to have practice to write a for in loop to iterate over an object, but hopefully with the examples, you've kind of gotten your head wrapped around it. There are also other kinds of loops, as you guys shouted out earlier for me. So while a specified condition is true, it loops through a block of code. This is what the basics of it look like. So while this condition, code executes. Let's check it out. Oop. So we've got a while loop written here. Let me zoom in some more for you. So I'm saying that n is going to start at 0. Then I'm saying that while n is less than 4 in what I'm about to do, increment n and log n. Let's see, Sean, what do you think the output for this one is going to be? Like, what's going to show up on my log? Any guesses?
4 zeros.
It could be. We can try it. Any other guesses? We're going to see in a second.
No, 1, 0.
Go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Could be as well. Let's check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, why this is happening is because all this code in these two curly braces is going to run while n is less than 4. And it's not going to come back to this because it's not in the loop. If I had put this in the loop, we would just get 0. And it might be infinite. I don't really know. But yeah, so that's the while loop. A close sibling to the while loop is the do while loop. And note that the first one said while a specified condition is true, do the thing. This one says do the thing while a specified condition is true. So let's check this one out. It looks very similar to the other one. The only difference is that my while is at the bottom. Let's see what this one runs real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, the exact same. So what is the difference? The difference is this is at least going to run once because there's no condition stopping it from running at least once. If I change this while n is less than 0, it's still going to run once. It's still going to console log 1 because it's doing this block of code before it reaches the conditional statement. So node gives me 1. I think that one's pretty funny, and I think it's also confusing, but it could be useful for you in any like situation you might use it in. So that's what it looks like in the basic form. Do the thing while this condition, by the way, I think. I like to think of this one as like, by the way. Maybe you should check for this before you, yeah, but. Okay, so once again, in a do while, the code block is run first and then the condition is checked, so the code will always run at least once. In a while loop, the condition is checked first and then the code is run. Cool. So a review. In someone's words, I'm going to have you think about it and then I'm going to cold call. I need you to think about the definition of for, the definition of for in, and the difference between while and do while. Take a little bit of time, formulate your answers. I'll do it too. Michael, can I bug you for your definition of for?
Well, it's a loop that iterates some functions for I is 0 until I is greater than or less than a specific thing. It's going to run the code.
Nice. Okay. Adam, do you want to tell us about for in?
for in iterates over the keys within an object.
Nice. And then the head. Do you want to tell us the difference between while and do while?
Oh, I was gonna say.
Oh.
It's okay.
Do whichever one you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say about the for him. We use for him when we don't really know the length.
Yes.
You know, we have a list, and the other thing is I don't have access to the indices of.
That is a great point. Thank you for bringing it up. In case you didn't hear, you don't have access to the indices for this for in. Like, you don't know the length of the thing you're passing through. That's why it's kind of useful, right? For a regular for loop, you kind of need to know a length. So thank you for pointing that out. Awesome. Austin, do you want to go for the while versus do while?
Yeah, a while loop just executes a block of code while something is or isn't true. And do while is the same thing, but at least the function will happen at least once.
Right, because the condition is beneath the block of code. Cool. So you can describe different kinds of loops. You're going to try them in your exercises, so that will be great. And I would love for you to practice writing for in loops to iterate over objects in the exercises on, I think they're objects 1 and objects 2. You can find them and learn, but they're also going to be on this slide deck that I will send out. Rob, question.
That website that you found where it had all the free loops, it didn't explain for each loop.
It didn't very well, correct. We can Google it together. I'll come over there. Cool. Let's see. What else? Yeah, and then if you need any other resources, there's these, and then I'll add some more up for each and for of, since you guys are into that, which I think is awesome. Cool. Do we have any other questions before I send you off on exercises? Everybody shakes their head. No. Okay, come bug me if you have any questions. Cool. Thanks, guys.